silos. Try to integrate all the learnings through the day, through the years, through your life, what you learned in college, what you learned in your MBA class, what you have learned for those who are employed. Integrate the lessons and try to come up with a blend of solutions that are going to enrich how you solve problems and therefore also empowering you in how you decide. Because the experiences you go through, if you ignore them, and Paulo Coelho, the gentleman who wrote various books, including The Alchemist, and for me, the most profound writing by Paulo was the Zahir. And in the Zahir, he says that all the lessons, all the solutions we need, all the opportunities we are seeking actually come to us almost daily. The problem with us human beings is that we don't pay sufficient or close attention to what is happening in our lives. And therefore we miss those moments. And then we start to say down the road that, whoa, there are no opportunities. So later in the slides, I'll talk about scanning your environment for opportunities. And therefore we see how the lessons from Paulo Coelho come to have effect in our life. So I'll move and just say that down the road, as we endeavor to create greater freedom for you to be successful, and that's why we run these free webinars, we'll talk towards the end about the integrated thinking approach, so that if you're solving a problem, if you are here and you run a business, if you are here and you head a department, if you're here and you are a person who is raising kids in a family, you have people depending on you, you'll always have problems to solve from all these people because you are connected to them. And how you respond to the issues that sometimes they bring to your attention will be a function of how you can effectively think in an integrated way. So we'll see a little bit of that as we go forward. So I want to just jump into some of the lessons from people who have already done it. And I want to indulge you with some lessons from this gentleman called Eric. Some of you have heard about Eric Schmidt. Eric is the former CEO of Google. You know Google, because Google eats your money every day, whether it's those meetings you're trying to hold on Teams, whether it's the emails. Some people pay for Google email, like myself, because I've used it so much to such a point where they've said, all right, you have to pay us to use email, and so on and so forth. And this guy is a most recent chairman of Alphabet. Alphabet is a holding company for Google. So let's not go in so much into who Eric Schmidt is, because you'll find that online. You can go and search and learn more about Eric Schmidt. So let's just see what Eric says about decisions approach. And I'll just say that perhaps you are wondering, why are we bringing lessons from Eric Schmidt? Well, it's simple. You see, first of all, one of the principles we use at Capable is that we don't really believe in reinventing the wheel. If other people have done it and they've come across the pitfalls that you would encounter in a decision-making scenario, and their lessons and learnings have been made public, the least we can do is to read and learn from what they went through and try to improve what we learn by applying to our unique situations. So let's try to avoid reinventing the wheel as much as possible. And then reason number two we pick on such guys is because, these are very successful individuals. Because you see the institutions that they have successfully, shepherded to success, like Google, for example. These are some of the greatest success stories you can talk about. And if you can learn from how the people who are leading companies like Google on how decisions were made, then you can see how to bring this in your daily life and pick what makes sense, and then integrate using integrated thinking into your decision-solving models, and therefore hopefully improve how you take decisions. So let's start quickly, because we said this is not theoretical. We want to keep it as practical as possible. Now, Schmidt says that at Google, what they did is that they formalized their various teams, meeting agendas, I want you to read the first bullet very carefully. Google formalized their various teams meeting agendas so that every employee at Google knew that they would get a weekly chance. There's an opportunity every week. This means that it's not a must that every employee presents every week, but every week there's an opportunity, a chance for every employee to present a plan that Google's leadership team could choose to act on, right? Or not act on it. So you can imagine all of us here in this webinar, we are working for Google and we have a meeting today. Each one of us has a chance to present a plan that we can say, this is a very good plan. This is a very good idea. This is a very good innovation. And within this meeting today, we can decide to act on your plan or to defy it or to say it is not yet time, depending on how compelling, right? And how you can effectively catalyze our commitment to the innovation you are proposing, okay? And emphasis was placed on efficiency. Now, before I move, when you're presenting such plans to your colleagues, always make sure that if you have a plan to improve how things are done in your organization or in your family, always ask yourself, let's take an example if you're an institution. Always ask yourself, this new plan I'm presenting for my colleagues to consider, how does it benefit our customers? How does it improve the experience of our customers? That's question one. Question two, how does this plan I am proposing improve or enhance how our organization works? You need to be able to detail very factually how those benefits are going to be experienced. It's not a theory. You convince your colleagues that if we change how we present information, then it will be easier for our clients to recognize what we are saying, and they'll understand faster our propositions, and therefore they respond quickly, and we can have a conversation, and we can close sales sooner than we have done in the past. Then question number three, other than demonstrating how your institution advances or benefits, how your customer benefits, you need to demonstrate to your colleagues how your plan, your innovation can be integrated in the existing institutional processes. You need to have an idea, a sense of how this will be integrated. Your colleagues may help you to improve on that, but you as the originator, you have got to have an idea of how it will be integrated in the overall processes of your institution. Then question number four that you need to address is that as you present your new idea, your new plan, you need to suggest to your colleagues, these are the 4-5 steps we can follow to implement this idea. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm trying to discourage a habit in many institutions where people read something on Google and they share on WhatsApp group for staff and say, please have a look, it has very good ideas. I mean, you're wasting your colleagues' time. You read it, extract the idea, analyze it, demonstrate the value to the company and to the clients, go further to show how this can be integrated in the existing processes, and further show the steps that can be taken to implement the idea. Then your colleagues will respect you. They'll say, yeah, he's thought about it. Actually, this can be done. We can do the following tweaks here and there and improve how we do things. That's ideally what the people at Google are asking for in the first bullet. Let's move to bullet 2. Eric Schmidt says he cannot tell you how many people have told him that Google decisions are made very fast or quickly in almost every case, even at their current scale. Now, remember what I've just explained to you in the first scenario, in the first bullet, sorry, will help to fast track decision making. You are saving your colleagues time because you are the one, you have the vision around the idea. Why do you want to burden others to think for you? So some people dump those ideas in the WhatsApp groups so that they demonstrate they are working, so that people know that, yeah, he has been thinking about the business. But really, you're letting down your colleagues. You need to change how you approach, how you propose ideas and new plans to your colleagues, because you need to simplify for your colleagues how they understand your idea and how your idea would be beneficial. And therefore, you are able to fast track also the decision-making process because you have provided sufficient information, including how your idea will be implemented. Bullet 3, Schmidt says, most large corporations have too many lawyers, too many decision makers, unclear owners. Nowadays in Kenya, they are saying they want to know who are the beneficial owners of organizations, and things happen very slowly. Now, the point here is, it is always good to let your lawyers have a look at what you're planning to do. But sometimes lawyers also don't understand what you're trying to do. You need to help them to quickly understand what you consider to be the risks of moving in the direction you're moving. And then it's up to them then to weigh in on what you have found and maybe highlight additional risks that you may have left out. This way, you move things a little faster. And that's how some companies have grown and prospered faster than others. Because you would wonder, why is it that you can have 4 companies that work in the same market conditions, the same regulatory environment, the same tax laws, the same pool of people from which to recruit employees, but some just race miles and miles ahead of the rest? Why? Why is that the case? And I've not mentioned they have the same opportunities and access to technology, but some become laggards and others excel. It all goes back to superior decision making. Let's go to the third last bullet, where Schmidt notes that even when Google chose to acquire YouTube in a $1.6 billion deal in 2006, the decision process took only 10 days. Now, if you adopt the thinking I've just illustrated, what you do over time is that you normally develop a stealth team of decision makers who are able to see opportunities further ahead and faster than your competition. And you can bear me witness. Some of you have come across guys who see an opportunity the same minute they interact with it. And you also have friends and colleagues who will take 3 years to see the same opportunity. By the time they realize it's an opportunity, their friend who decided is already moving to something new. And he has already taken advantage of what we call the fast movers advantage. He's already dominating the market with that idea, and they're moving to the next thing. It happens, and it has happened. And we have, tons of examples of this. Now, as we conclude on Schmidt, at Google, Schmidt explains, it's clear whose responsibilities are. They've clarified responsibilities for all their staff. There's a lot of clarity on what everyone is doing. And the decisions don't get caught up in bureaucratic limbo. There's a lot of bureaucracy in many institutions. Google considers too much bureaucracy a disease, and therefore they've tried to cut down on bureaucracy. You can cut down bureaucracy to an acceptable level. There's a level where you need, due process to be followed in a certain way. And we will illustrate shortly how that is done when we look at the lessons from Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, and how he goes around dealing with bureaucracy when it comes to decision making and problem solving. So even if you make a wrong decision, a quick decision is better than almost every case. That's what Schmidt says. So, especially for those here who are running side hustles, you have startups or upstarts, and you're afraid you might be wrong. Let me tell you, you'll still be wrong, even if you think you're right. I read some books, most influential in thought leadership about decision making. And one of them is Mark Manson, who says that all the decisions we've made today and before, we have actually been wrong. The thing is to always take the best decision under the circumstances. And in fact, our very own, Mr. Michael Joseph of Safaricom, now he's our own, but I know originally, I don't think he's a Kenyan, but he's our own because he is connected to us through what he has done with Safaricom. During his exit interview by one of the leading media houses, he said that for him, if you are making decisions and you are just 70%, you feel you're 70% right, you should move ahead. Don't wait for 100%, because your 100% may be 50% when somebody else looks at your decision. So your 100% is actually relative. So as a team, if you feel you are 70% right, just proceed. Don't worry about the 30%, of being wrong, because somebody will definitely come and say you are wrong. But the beauty with taking decisions, even when you discover that you are wrong later on, is that you learn from the mistakes you make. And the people who don't take any decisions, remember, you're missing the opportunities to learn. So let's move and look at the next set of lessons. And basically, we'll be looking at a guy called Richard Branson and how he advises we should take decisions. Anyone, do you know Richard Branson? Can I hear from the audience? Anyone who knows Richard? You can type or you can speak. It's good to talk. Hey, people, who is Richard Branson? Patrick Kurui. Rosungugi, you are here, I can see you. And Zacchaeus Abuga. Anyone, can you tell me who is Richard Branson? Anyone who knows him?
He is the owner of Virgin Atlantic.
Very good, very good. And he didn't later get a lot of education, isn't it?
I have not really read much about him, but I know he's a businessman.
Yes, he's a
very
businessman. He's an entrepreneur. All right. All right. So go read about Richard Branson after this session. You're going to learn a lot about him, and he has a lot of lessons to share. And I'm just seeing in the chat, we have he's the owner of Virgin. Yes, Hillary Kiprotich-Kosgei, thank you. Jennifer Osiako, owner of Virgin Atlantic, thank you so much. And he owns so many other companies. There are many new projects he's working on. We can read more about that online. Amazing projects, like he's investing in the travel industry. He wants to send people into space and so on and so forth. So let's get to the lessons by Richard Branson, one of the most successful entrepreneurs known on the planet Earth. He says that you need to look beyond first impressions. When you are making decisions, sometimes we have this gut feeling, I love this project, I have to do it. It seems like this guy has been, has been selling quail eggs, and his quails are many, he's making money. I also need to do quail business. So the first impression is that this thing is working, right? You need to do your homework. Don't just go and start rearing quail. There are people here in this session who have suffered a big loss because of rushing into the quail industry. And the quail industry seems to be dead as we speak now. I don't know how that happened, but the thing is, look beyond the first impressions. Do your homework. What is homework? Homework means you need to ask the 4 questions I was asking in the earlier slide. That's number 1. Homework means you need to go and assess whether this presents a definite opportunity in your market in terms of your internal strengths as an organization. As an individual, you also need to look at your competencies and capacities. And we'll look at homework shortly because you need to just do your research. Do your research and understand the opportunity that you are investing in. Then avoid making decisions in isolation. Sometimes in your organization, those guys who actually, once they feel this is what we need to do, they don't want to consult anybody. And it's something to do with DNA more than education. Because the people I know who always like to override others because they're the ones who have said, it's something genetic, so to say, because if you go and do, and I've been involved in a situation where we did personality tests for such individuals, and we found that that behavior is inherent in them. That when they decide we are running a full-page advert in the nation media, they don't expect anyone to have a better suggestion in the team. But that's a huge mistake. You need to be willing to listen to what your colleagues are saying, because many a time you'll discover they have a better way of doing things than yourself. So again, allow me a 30-second commercial break as you look at those slides, because I need to just assist somebody who would like to access the space where I am. So give me just one second. Give me a second. Yeah, let us proceed. Thank you very much. Let us proceed and look at those lessons. So we are looking at Richard Branson. He says, don't take decisions in isolation. So if you are that person in this room that I'm talking about, my own personal experience, I have a colleague here called Peter Kioko. I worked with him when I served as the Director for Professional Standards at ISPAC. And Kioko will tell you that my approach was to, if I have a suggestion, I'll table it, but I'll request the team to disagree or reject my proposal if they had good reasons. What surprised me was that 90% of my proposals were rejected. And I accepted because my colleagues that I were overseeing had better ways of doing things than myself. Because your colleagues, especially if you are a supervisor, your colleagues are on the cutting edge, on the bleeding edge of customer interaction. They have more intelligence than you about the market and your plans than you do. Your job is to open your mind and be willing to consume the feedback they're bringing back to you. And then that's how you win in terms of arriving at smarter decisions than your competition. So Richard says in bullet 3 that every decision has some degree of impact on your ability to adopt other future opportunities in what the experts call the decision stream. Now think about the decision stream. Think about the decision stream. The decision stream would be something like, you are thinking of putting up a warehouse, let's say on Mombasa Superhighway. But you have read in the newspapers that in the next 3 years, the government of Kenya is abandoning the dual carriageway project between Nairobi and Mombasa, and instead, the government is prioritizing building a dual carriageway between Nairobi and Nakuru to Mau Summit. And that means that a lot of capital investment is going to happen between Nairobi and Nakuru, which will attract, a lot of traffic as well as, movement of capital. And therefore that presents a bigger opportunity in terms of location, choice of location for you. Now, although your team had sat down and thought that if we put up this thing near Mtito on the way to Mombasa, then it's gonna work well, you may need to reconsider your ability to adapt to the future opportunities that are not in public domain or in public domain, depending on how you access your information, so that you can create a greater impact on the decision that you're making in committing your time, your resources, your capital to investing in an opportunity. So there are so many ways of looking at the decision number 3. In short, if you're making a decision, for instance, to go for your master's degree in human resource management, or you are deciding to take a course in accounting, you need to ask yourself, should I be instead doing an MBA in information technology and data analytics in the light of the emerging prominence and high demand for data analytics going into the future, so that I can take advantage of those opportunities by the time I graduate from university? We call that the decision stream. So think about that. Don't just think about today and next year. Think about long time. What will be the consequence of this decision in terms of other future opportunities that are coming up? Okay? And you might think in bullet 4 that what you're about to do is too good to miss opportunity, but you need to ask yourself, how will it affect other projects or other opportunities or priorities? And if now is not the best time to do what you're about to do, what risks, if any, are there in putting the construction of your warehouse on Mombasa Road on hold? If you put the construction of the warehouse on Mombasa Road on hold for an agreed period of time, what are the risks you face? It's good to quantify your risks. And by definition, risk is a chance that something will go wrong. And how do you mitigate those things from going wrong? So you need to address these questions, especially in scenarios where you're committing to a project that will significantly consume, capital and other resources. Now, Richard says that you need to step back to assess the bigger picture, as this can help make your top priorities clearer, both for yourself and for the business or your organization for that matter. Now, if you feel what you're about to do the warehouse you are putting up or you want to put up on Mombasa Road, if you think you cannot manage this particular project, in addition to another one that's waiting in the wings, that is setting up another warehouse in Naivasha or near Nakuru because of the construction that's going on that highway, okay? Which of the two projects, putting up the warehouse on Mombasa Road and on the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, which one should be dropped and why? Why should you drop one of the two? You need to sit down and answer those questions. So let's quickly look at Ellon Musk. And some of you know Ellon Musk. I don't know, anyone who can tell me about Ellon Musk? I can pick on anyone who is willing to speak. We have Hortensia Kuria. We have a lot of people here. We have Daniel Njoroge. Who is Ellon Musk? Very quickly, people. We want to move very fast. Karen Wanguku, you are here. CPA Jen Jagi. Vivian Awino. Anyone, please. But you can also type if you feel you do not want to speak. Just type your answer in the chat box, and then we'll be able to see what you are telling us about Ellon Musk. Anyway, in summary, Ellon Musk is one amazing fellow. He has landed multi-billion-dollar contracts from the United States of America government to take over the NASA space missions projects. And now Ellon, what he's doing is that he's sending satellites to do, exploration, and you know what satellites do? They enable research to happen, to even understand, weather patterns and many other things. There's a lot of scientific value, including what some governments call espionage around what is happening around the world. And this is now being done by a private company owned by Elon Musk, although Elon Musk now is just a shareholder because he has sold substantial stake to other capital providers. And the company Elon Musk that he runs that deals in space exploration is called SpaceX. And what they've done at SpaceX is that they are able to reuse the material that they use for sending satellites. Those rockets, they come back and they land safely on a bouncing, platform in the sea, and they're able to take those materials to the factory to use the material for developing rockets for sending the next satellites into space. And more recently, you're aware Elon Musk sent some people into space for around 3 months. He also runs a company called Tesla. And this Tesla business should inspire you quite, because when he decided to list Tesla on the New York Stock Exchange, every other analyst, almost 9 out of 10, they laughed at him. And they thought that he's joking. And he said he would build a bigger company than GM. Of course, GM is now a small entity compared to Tesla. Tesla is causing problems in the global car market because even the Germans are struggling to build a car that is as good, an energy car that only uses electricity is as good as Tesla cars. And you saw in Kenya, Kenyans are already buying Tesla cars. And what I can say is that even Mercedes and BMW entered into a joint venture to build a green energy car to compete with Elon Musk's Tesla. But I think Elon is very comfortable. And therefore, such a genius guy who was born in South Africa and emigrated to Canada, where he later moved to the United States of America and became a citizen of the United States of America. This is a guy you perhaps need to listen to his advice on decision making. So let's see what he's saying. He's saying always ask questions. Ask a question every time. We can't tell you here what type of questions to ask. When you are in a decision situation, and my colleague Regan has always told me, let us ask good questions. When you ask questions, even if you don't have the answers today, somehow the brain has a miraculous way of working. In 2-3 days, you'll have the answers to the problems you're trying to solve. Number 2, Elon Musk says, gather as much evidence as possible about the question you're asking or the issue or decision you want to take. Gather as much evidence. We saw that under Richard Branson. Number 3, Elon says, when you are making a decision, develop axioms based on the evidence and try to assign a probability of truth to each one. Now, what is an axiom? Axiom is a statement or a proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. Now you'll find such things in physics, science, the laws of energy, relativity, gravity. So those kinds of things are established, including even your body functioning. Doctors have established, for instance, the role of thyroid hormone in your body. Some of these things are already established. So you need to develop axioms about the decision you want to make, about what is already known, okay? Then number 4, he says you need to draw a conclusion based on cogency in order to determine, number 1, you need to determine, number 1, are these axioms, these held truths about how things work, are they correct? That's number 1, okay? Are they relevant? Relevance is very important. If you're trying to solve a human resource problem with a member of staff who has been, not turning up for work repeatedly, and you go and, you want to use, the provisions in the standard on dealing with fair valuation of assets to fair value, maybe the value of this person to the company, I think there's irrelevance there because our IFRSs don't apply in such situations. That is irrelevant. That is irrelevant. And maybe if you're working for Kenya Forest Services and you understand the, how do I call it, the biological process of how certain forests perform, those, exotic forests, because Kenya Forest Services plants trees and protects them. And you want to take a decision to set up such a forest. And you want, to rely on a technology that is suitable in countries that experience winter, right? And you want to apply this technology in Northeastern in Kenya. I think that is irrelevant. You need to address relevance at every stage of your decision making. Now, the axioms you are relying on, do they necessarily lead to the conclusion you are making? The decision that we can now invest in this idea, the decision we can change the processes to adopt the new proposal from our colleague, okay? If there are principles held on how communication is done, do those principles necessarily support the conclusion that you can change how you project your brand as an organization? Now, with what probability? With what probability do you believe your decision is correct? Because probabilities have to come in. That's why I said earlier, the decisions you are making most of the time you are wrong. You should always assess the probability that you are right. Probability is calculating percentages out of 100. What is the chance that this will work? And what is the acceptable level of the chance that this will work? The problem is when you're dealing with uncertainty, sometimes it is difficult to compute probabilities because there's no data from the past that tells you you'll succeed or fail. So you may do your computations and find that you only have a 5% chance of succeeding. And yet, because this is a new area, a novel idea, the true chance of its success is actually 90%, because nobody has ever tried such an idea before for you to say that it will fail or succeed. And when you are experimenting with new ideas, taking decisions on new ideas, you need to remember sometimes the decisions you are making have no past precedent. And if there's no past precedent, you need to take this into account in encouraging your colleagues to take the risk and learn. An example is Safaricom. When Safaricom hired Michael Joseph and they were rolling out the network in Kenya, his target for the first 2 years was actually to only enroll, I think, up to around 200,000 to 500,000 subscribers. But they ended up with almost 2 million. And they were shocked because we've never had something like this in Kenya. In fact, they were thinking they would only subscribe 5,000 people in a year. The results were just amazing. Number 5, attempt to disapprove the conclusion you have made on a decision. So if you sit in a meeting with your colleagues and you decide that we are changing, let me assume you are in a manufacturing company and you sit down and say, let's assume you are working for Coca-Cola, and you say that the chemical mixture and the composition of the elements that make Coca-Cola drink, we need to change and remove this and add this. And some people are divided on the decision because they are saying we might disrupt our loyal customers. You need to seek refutation from others about the proposal you are making to change the Coca-Cola formula. Because some people in Coca-Cola might think if you change the formula, you are going to double your market share and take over the Pepsi-Cola market share, right? Give people a chance to disapprove the conclusion that changing the Coca-Cola formula will be helpful. And you can do this on any other idea. When you sit in management meetings in your organization, and you have proposals or the senior team has some suggestions, challenge the people in the room to refute or disagree or reject the proposal with good reasons. When I was serving as the CEO of the Institute of Accountants in Rwanda way back, there's a time I tabled a proposal to undertake a review of audit firms in Rwanda, something we had never done. And there were some council members who said we shouldn't do it because it's not a good idea. Another scenario was at the end of the first year, I proposed to the council, we apply for IFAC membership. And they said, we can't do it because we are too young. It's too soon. We are just a year old. You are too fast. What is the rush for? And I told them for the two situations, I want you to table a better alternative. I want you to reject my suggestion, but when you reject it, I want you to table a superior alternative to what I'm proposing. Now, I want all of you to pause there and ask yourselves, have you ever been in a situation where you tabled an idea, you tabled a suggestion, and the people rejected your suggestion without tabling a superior alternative to what you are tabling? Have you ever been in such a situation? That's very bad. Tell those guys, if my idea is bad, please table a superior alternative. Don't just reject ideas, refute with a better alternative. Now, if nobody can invalidate your conclusion, then there's a chance that you have a higher probability of succeeding, but you are not certainly right. The fact that people will have difficulty challenging your idea doesn't mean you are certainly right. It just means you have a higher probability of maybe succeeding, but still there's a chance you might fail. But you must never stop moving forward with creating the future because there's a chance that you might fail. The whole idea about life is to experience failure, learn, and move on to the next thing that is better than what you have been doing in the past. Now, let's conclude the lessons with Jeff Bezos. And many of you are aware of Jeff Bezos. More recently, he was the wealthiest guy on the Fortune 500 listing. And then he was overtaken by Ellon Musk. Then Ellon Musk made some comments, controversial comments on social media about Tesla and its associates investing in Bitcoin. And that caused confusion in the market. And within 2 to 3 days, he lost value worth around $15 billion US, around $15 billion US. And he now is number 2 in the list of the wealthiest people. Jeff Bezos is back at number 1. And when your company is listed in the stock market, you need to watch what you say. Now, I have to say something about Jeff Bezos before we pick the lessons from him. Jeff and Elon Musk, these are weird guys because in the year 2020, between the month of March 2020 and the month of October 2020, Jeff Bezos made over $100 billion US in net worth. Net worth means the total of his assets minus the total of his liabilities. What remains between March and October 2020, he was able to raise a net worth of $100 billion US. That is about 8 months. In 8 months, he generated a net worth of $100 billion US. Now you can compare that to the Republic of Kenya. In 57 years, we have been able to generate 99 USD in GDP, while this guy is able to do it in 8 months. And he's alone, and we are actually 50 million people. Of course, the active ones who are working are actually just about 50% of our population. Still, that is something I want you to digest and ask yourself, we as a nation, can we do better in terms of thinking and productivity? Can we smarten, if there's any English word like that, our decision making so that we can match the level of productivity that can turn our country perhaps into a first world nation in terms of productivity and value creation? So Jeff Bezos says that there are type 1 and type 2 decisions. Type 1 decisions are not reversible. They are somewhat permanent. For instance, when your organization is spending 300 million Kenya shillings to install a new software, that's a difficult decision to reverse, because after you commit to that contract and the vendors arrive in your organization and they install the software, and it turns out you did not assess the specifications correctly and the mistakes were made, and the new software is not solving the problems your organization wanted to solve, you can't go back. The contract has been signed, you must pay for it. And that software will never help your organization. And that decision cannot be reversed. And it is very expensive for your organization. That is a type 1 decision. Be very careful when you are making type 1 decisions. Type 1 decisions at a personal level is choosing a spouse, for instance. They always say, take your time. Don't allow villagers, when you go there to celebrate Christmas, to put you under pressure to ask, nani alikuroga? Mbona kijana hauna mrembo? Don't accept. Take your time. This is somebody you live with for the rest of your life. This is a type 1 decision. Na warembo pia msisukumwe sana. My father used to tell my sisters, it is not a must that you get married. Take care of your career. Be independent, right? Then the other things will fall in place. These guys will be attracted to you because you are capable, perhaps, if it ever happens. Type 1 decisions, please keep this in mind. Yeah, I was having a discussion with our CEO, Mr. Regan, this morning, and I told him what we were discussing was a type 2 decision. So we need to move very fast and make the adjustments and see what happens. Let me talk about type 2 decision, lessons from Jeff Bezos. Type 2 decisions are like walking through a door and you can walk out. You walk into Java Coffee House, you walk out after a cup of tea. That's how it works. The ladies like to shop on instinct. You know, have you ever gone to shop with a lady? When they see something in the supermarket, they really love it. Their emotions are taken over and they say, I must buy this dress. I must buy this shoe. This cake looks really nice. Let me buy it. Now, type 2 decisions fall in that category. There's no problem with taking type 2 decisions, because type 2 decisions enable you to experiment with something new quickly. You're able to learn and discover whether it works or whether it is better than what you have been using. And if it doesn't work, you abandon it and go back to what you are doing or look for other new things to try. Those are type 2 decisions. Now, Jeff says you need to develop the capacity to distinguish between type 2 and type 3 decisions. Sorry, type 1 and type 2 decisions. Now, Jeff says the problem is that when you confuse the two, you can get into a lot of trouble. So after today's session, I want you to go back to your organization and start practicing how to make type 1 and type 2 decisions. Because if you practice, then it comes naturally down the road. For us at Capable, it is coming naturally of late. We are able to quickly distinguish between moments when we need to take time, because we know this is a type 1 decision, and moments when we need to move with stealth and take action on a situation without wasting time. Now, Bezos says that as organizations get larger, there seems to be a tendency to use the heavy-weighted type 1 decision-making process on most decisions, including many type 2 decisions. Now, Jeff says if you are from a big organization, you suffer from the disease of thinking every decision is a type 1 decision. And that's why many organizations, the big ones, they slow down and they are killed. They are killed and their customers are taken away by the startups. And that's why Jeff tells his colleagues at Amazon that they must every day think like a startup. Every day they must assume it is day one, no matter how big Amazon has become. Because that way they are able to maintain the discipline of being able to distinguish between type 1 and type 2 decisions. And that's why you can see the amazing things that Amazon has been able to achieve. So we have a diagram here that illustrates how type 1 and type 2 decisions work. Right here at the top corner here, there's high irreversibility. Like the software example, when you buy the software for 300 million, you sign the contract, they supply, you discover it can't work, there's high irreversibility of that decision of the software. And then there's high consequence. The consequences are high because the money is gone and you have no software and you can't reverse the decision. When the consequences are high and the irreversibility is high, make decisions slowly, carefully, and methodically, as in the case of the software. If the consequences are low, right here at this corner, and you can easily reverse the decision, like the lady who saw a beautiful cake in Naivas supermarket, and she decides to buy, even though it's not on her shopping list, it is very easy to abandon that cake because they are not expensive. Maybe it is a small cake that costs 350 shillings. She doesn't like it. The only thing she needs to do is not to buy it again in future. So please take note of that. Then in your life, try to use the SWOT analysis. Use the SWOT analysis. Now, this is an age-old concept. SWOT analysis, we've encountered it. Those who attended management classes, you've come across this. Please never ignore SWOT analysis because it enables you to recognize your strengths. It's very important to know what your strengths are, because I always say it is important to know what your strengths are so that you leverage, because your strengths are your leverage and you need to leverage your leverage, all right? Now, SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities enable you to be able to know what your weaknesses are and work on them. Identify opportunities in the environment as you make decisions. Because remember, I told you at the start, the whole idea of life is to solve problems. In fact, after this session is gone, you'll spend the rest of the day today solving problems, including the decision about where you will have lunch today. That is a problem you have to solve. Then there's a sub-level of that problem where the money comes from, assuming that you don't have enough budget. But even if you have the budget, you need to know how much you are spending. That is also a problem to solve, the decision, how much should I spend on lunch? Up to the time you go to bed tonight, you'll be solving problems and for the rest of your life. And therefore, you need to sharpen your decision-making approaches so that all the problems you solve between today and the last day of your life on earth should be good decisions. Because they say what you are today is the sum total of your past decisions. What you are today is the sum total of your past decisions. If every day you are taking bad decisions, the evidence will be there in 5, 10 years. It will be evident. So using SWOT analysis is good. We'll go into SWOT analysis in the next session, the next webinar, perhaps we can talk about this. And the SWOT analysis is critical to strategic decision-making and strategy formulation. So try to avoid some things when you are taking decisions. When you are decisioning, avoid being short-sighted. We looked at the guidance by Ellon Musk and Branson. Don't be short-sighted. Think about the decision stream. I talked about the decision stream. Imagine what other opportunities might open up or get closed as a result of the decision you're taking, right? Avoid, underline here, avoid continuing a project merely because you started it or continuing to implement a decision just because it's you. For some people actually suffer from the ego problem. Some people cannot check ego. My friends, if you learn to check your ego, sometimes it can help you. You can realize you're advancing in life faster than you thought. Then avoid being afraid of the unknown. I said earlier, sometimes the future is unknown, but the idea is to choose whether to participate, according to Gary Hamel, whether to participate in creating the future or to be in the audience and wait so other people determine your fate. You can determine your fate by being a participant in the creation of the future. So stop being afraid of the unknown. And then avoid resting on your laurels. Don't sit back and say, umefika, hakuna kufika. Keep reading every day. Try new things. Be focused. Remember, you need to have a decision framework. And then avoid intuiting or thinking that the future follows a straight line from the past. There's nothing like that. When we were growing up in primary school, the future was that get a good education, you'll get a good job. Actually, the future has changed. And the future will never be the same again. It has changed for good. It's not a straight line. there are many surprises along the corner. Actually, for me, the biggest deal about the COVID pandemic that happened in 2020 here in Kenya is not really how soon I'll recover from COVID-19 pandemic and its effects. For me, the big deal about COVID is that how has COVID-19 pandemic changed me? Ask yourself, how has COVID changed you? If COVID has not changed you, then I think you are in a little bit of trouble because you have wasted lessons from the trouble we have been through over the last 1 year. Don't waste lessons. Don't waste crises. Don't waste opportunities to learn. Avoid being distracted by new but possibly irrelevant technology or ideas. There are people who suffer from what we call the shiny ball syndrome. Every shiny ball they see, they run to it, and they abandon a good decision they had already made. People who suffer from the shiny ball syndrome never make it to any place, because even if they made a good decision, when they see something shiny along the way, they abandon it. What Professor Lumumba, you know him, the one who speaks heavy English, used to say, you are chasing an antelope and you are being distracted by squirrels along the way. Then you lose the main prize. So you need to enter your strategic planning and budgeting sessions because you need to work on your budget at a personal and organizational level with an open mind and have clear communications and have a collaborative outlook. As Branson's rightly said, don't take decisions in isolation. Now, this is our final slide. This diagram here helps us to understand how integrated thinking works. As a person, an individual, as an organization, you have all of this as what we call capital. You need capital to function. All the decisions that you take to solve problems, you are using resources. What we have here on the left are resources. And when you take decisions, really, the consequence of a decision is that resources will be used. And there has to be an outcome of resource usage, right? And when we solve problems by taking decisions which involve either using financial resources, or we may have manufactured resources. Like there are people who are developing goods or services, like, you know, you'll find people who are running food and restaurant, so they manufacture different dishes on their menu to sell. So you have to take decisions around what ingredients are you buying for your manufactured capital, and how do you price the food in your restaurant? How do you sell? How do you market it? Then you have intellectual capital, and this is common in institutions like Capabel, where we develop so many intellectual products, programs, new concepts, new ideas, new ways of, you know, solving problems, and so on and so forth. All of that is intellectual capital that is used in problem solving for us internally at Capabel, but also externally for our customers. Then there's human capital, very critical, because human capital drives everything else. You have to have amazing people in your team. Those who have read From Good to Great by Jim Collins, he says that factor number one that level 5 leaders look at when they want to build a company from good to great is that they look at who is on the team. Who is on the team? And Jim Collins says he doesn't believe that people in your organization are assets. He believes the right people are assets, because when you have the wrong people, they become liabilities, because they'll fight you, they'll fight your ideas, they'll actually plant Trojans in your ICT system, they'll hack your data. The guys who are hacking your system are not outsiders. They're guys within your team. When you have such wrong guys who don't have ethics, have no integrity, it's because you have not fixed the concept of having the right people in your team. But sometimes you'll never know. Some people come and pretend to be nice, and you'll never know you have a bad guy in your team. So you need to just be prepared to deal with the problems as they arise. Then you have social capital, very important. The people you network with, you connect with. I think, I don't know whether we've ever come to really understand how powerful the connections we have, the networks, the social relationships can have a massive impact in our success. This is a discussion we need to have in a standalone webinar to just talk about stakeholder engagement and the growth of social and the relationship capital. And then natural capital, there are people who own natural assets, forests, land, and so on. That's natural capital. Now, all of these resources are used to solve problems. And how you solve problems is to have a business model. You can see the business model here. And by definition, a business model are the inputs, which include the money you spend, the time you spend, that you put into undertaking business activities. And those business activities lead to output. So for instance, the organizations here that do licensing, like let's take an example of an institution such as SASRA, which actually licenses SACCOs. One of the activities, they spend money to hire employees to undertake activities of evaluating applications by SACCOs. And those activities lead to outputs. Outputs being the licenses accepted or issued or rejected by the regulator. And that output leads to an outcome. The outcome becomes strengthening regulation of the SACCO industry, okay? It leads to an outcome of enhancing the effectiveness and efficiency of the financial services system in Kenya. And what I've described is the same thing a regulator like the Central Bank of Kenya would do in its business model to regulate banks in Kenya. So that's what we call a business model. So you bring your resources into your business model as you solve problems. Remember what SASRA is doing, they're solving problems by regulating that sector. CBK is solving problems by regulating the central bank so that you have direct beneficiaries like those who are involved in saving their money in banks because your money is protected through such regulation. Then you have indirect beneficiaries such as external investors who want to find a strong economy where they'll have customers to buy the goods that they'll be producing in Kenya. Now, this business model requires you as a person and as an institution, you have to have good governance. Now, good governance means, by definition, governance is creating stakeholder value by undertaking actions that lead to realization of that value for stakeholders. And that value could be giving superior customer service. The value could be repaying your loans that you have taken from the banks, because banks are also your stakeholders. Value creation could be paying your suppliers who supply you as an organization because they are your suppliers. Value creation could be ensuring the staff benefits are paid on time, their pension contributions are delivered to the pension fund on time, because your stakeholders are also your staff, all right? So you must make sure all those stakeholders, their interests and value is protected. That is what we call governance. And to achieve that governance, as an institution, as a person, you need to have a mission, you need to have a vision, and a vision is a dream, what you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. The mission is the roadmap, the things you do every day to achieve the vision. And when you're achieving that vision, you need to define the opportunities that you picked from the SWOT analysis and the risks that you'll face. And the risk management, we say, risk is seeing a poisonous snake holding gold in its mouth, and if you take the gold, it will bite you and you'll die, and you'll be buried in a few days. To avoid dying and being buried, you go to one of these institutions like KWS and hire a snake catcher, pay him a few coins to catch the snake for you, get your gold, go and sell it in the market, walk away with your millions. That is what we call risk management. The people who take risk doesn't mean they don't manage risk. They are aware of the risks and they manage those risks. Now, that mission and vision, as you undertake exploitation of risks and the tapping of opportunities, you need to have a strategy, a strategic plan that involves the decision-making principles we've just discussed. Now, for you to implement your strategy, you need to allocate a budget, what we call resource allocation. Never prepare a budget that is not linked to your strategic plan. All of this is happening within your business model. And at the end of the year, you need to assess performance, both financial and non-financial. Financial meaning, did you make a profit? Did you make a surplus? Non-financial means, when you said you will recruit staff, did you recruit? Did you upgrade the ICT system so that you can serve your customers better? Outlook means, are you able to prepare a report showing the future prospects for you as an individual? And if I may ask you here, what have you achieved over the last 5 years? I always like to say governments come in for 5 years. Jubilee took power in 2017 up to 2022. In those 5 years, can you tell us in this session what you have achieved as a person before we criticize the politicians for either succeeding or failing? You need to be worried about yourself and your success as well, because your success is what makes Kenya successful. So don't just pass the buck. Ask yourself, for the next 5 years, what are you planning to achieve? Then if you do all of these things, they result in all those resources and capitals growing, and you're able to invest back here, and that's how you grow over time. And as you do these things, you are increasing value over time. And if you are making bad decisions in your business model, then your value will also diminish. That's why your classmates in high school, not all of them are doing well. Some of them are actually beggars, and some are burning charcoal in the village. When you go there, they ask you to give them 20 bob. I'm not saying they made bad decisions, but I'm saying it cannot end the same way for everyone. In closing, we have questions. Capable experts will modernize, develop, review, update, or enhance your tools, systems, and policy frameworks. So you can contact us on these numbers. Our questions are, how do you take decisions to solve problems every day? Do you have an internalized methodology for solving problems in your organization? I want you after this session to write down 2 lessons you have learned in this presentation and what you commit to implement today, starting today, going forward on decision making. Thank you very much, and I would like to take any questions if you have. Over to you, Simon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Evans. Indeed, you have really shared with us very important points. I've been able to realize that our main objective on this earth is actually to solve problems, and I think that's very powerful. And looking at the numbers, we are at, I think, 61 attendees. We clocked a maximum of 65, 66, and their attendance and stay has really meant that what you have shared with them is really important. That is why they have stuck with us to the end. And this means that actually our delegates are actually true leaders. Yeah, we are constantly building ourselves. Yeah, and they're seeking out the knowledge and skills and experiences that they need in order to succeed. And that's great. I believe nothing is going to stop us on our way to succeeding in life and in business. So thank you so much, FCP Evans. We are very grateful. Now, at this time, I would like to welcome delegates. I know time has really gone, but it has been worth it. All of it has been worth it. It's at 1:24 p.m. We have like 6 minutes for us to end our session, but I will not lock out anyone. If you have questions or concerns or something that you would like our trainer to expound on or respond, this is the time. You can just raise your hand and then you can air out your question. If you're not in a position to speak, of course, you can text in the chat box, even as we finish or we finalize the session. Yeah. Meanwhile, let me look out for anyone whose hand is up. Anyone? It must not necessarily be a question. Maybe it's a comment or an addition or a suggestion rather. Maybe when we host a similar training, something that you would also like us to capture, we will note that down and work on the same. Okay, so as we think through that in the next couple of minutes, let me just remind you of our sessions next week. So we will be having a training on, let me just share the link. We'll be having a session on, let me get that link right now. So we'll be having a session on personal finance, entrepreneurship, and retirement planning. I do understand that we had the same session a week ago, and we had an overwhelming attendance. We clocked close to 102 delegates, and we promised that we'll be having the session every month. So don't miss out if you really want to build on what we had shared last time. And also, if you have not attended the previous one, this is another chance for you to attend. And I know we will have made the content to be more inclusive and capturing more deeper areas when it comes to personal finance management and retirement planning. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just sharing the link on our chat box, yeah, so that you can go and register for the 3 events that are next on our website, yeah. And once you are at our website, you can also take your time to go through the physical trainings that are coming up starting next week. And also just a special reminder, we are considering to have you attend our physical trainings and we will look and filter through our database. And for those who will have attended, close to 70% of our free webinars since we started, we'll be giving you a special package whenever you register for our physical trainings, yeah, so that you don't pay as much as the price that you're supposed to pay, but so that you can have a chance to see how our physical trainings look like. So you can mention the same to our colleagues even as we think through the same, and we'll give you feedback on the same. So with that, I still see no one's hand up, but I'm seeing people commenting on the chat box. Regan says, congratulations, Evans. I have also seen someone say people successful tested decisions are a stepping stone for our day. Thank you for sharing knowledge, Mr. Mulera. Evans Mulera also says, thank you. Leah Jebiot says, insightful presentation. Thank you, Evans. So it's only 2 minutes remaining, and then we end the session. And seeing that no one has been able to ask a question or raise a concern, I think it will be prudent to end the session, because I also believe that we have other matters to attend to. Well, in that regard, I also just remind us that we have been successful so far. We have held over 53 free webinars, yeah? And we have over 2,850 participants who have been attending these free webinar sessions, and clocking to, I think, more than 3,000 free CPD hours opportunities that have been created. And currently we're having more than 145 highly discounted low-cost payable webinars that have been approved by organizations. Of course, this also includes the physical trainings that we are trying to roll out. So keep this in mind, keep us engaged, reach out to us for your training and consulting needs, because whatever we are preparing for you is something that I believe will add value to you, into your organization, and to your personal life as well. So with those few remarks, I would like to end the session, and I would welcome anyone else, or maybe a lady or a gent, to give a vote of thanks, or also let the CEO, Regan, to say something, and then we shall end the session.
Hi, Calvin. Much you can hear me?
I can hear you, Regan.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Evans. That was an awesome presentation. And to the delegates who have tuned in for the past 1.5 hours, we also appreciate your commitment. But one thing that we'll keep on telling you is the reason why we are here is because of what we believe in, and that is making you a successful professional. So we'll continue doing more research on areas we feel will actually fit into your professional journey. So every day what we think about is you. And that is why we are becoming better, because we talk to you every day and you give us what you need. That is what will make us strong together. So this is just a tip of an iceberg. There is more coming. We are doing more in terms of changing the way we do things. We are moving into the technology area. And as we speak, there are a number of meetings that we are having at Capable just to make sure that we make you succeed. So thank you for your time and for having you in this webinar today. Back to you, Machi.
Thank you so much, Sir Regan, on the same. And Wycliffe, we also acknowledge and are grateful for your affirmation, and also thanking us, and of course, Evans, for the great presentation, and the entire team. So with that, I would like to end the session right now. I know we have other personal schedules to attend to in the afternoon, including having lunch and something. So let me not take much of your time. But on behalf of Capable, let me just say thank you, and let's continue working together and building our abilities to help the society and improve lives. So with that, have a nice time, and let's meet again next week, same time. Thank you so much.